Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Healthy Relationships with Erin Riley. Erin is a Link employee, and she has experience in informal education, as well as she's a real-life stand-up comedian and storyteller. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, thank you. I am. I always feel like I put the stand-up comedian in my bio and then I'm not so funny at 9:06 in the morning. So bear with me, everyone. Let's see. Good morning. Please know that we don't have closed captioning, but we will have this recorded, and on that version, we will have closed captioning. Sorry. All right, it is 9 o'clock in the morning, so I myself am just getting ready. But we have healthy relationships this morning. I do invite you to ask questions, and I will try and answer them the best I can. Thank you for starting your day out with me. First and foremost, I'm really excited to talk with you about healthy relationships. I've actually worked for several years with children and their families through the Our Whole Lives program, which is a comprehensive sexuality education program. And if you want any information on that, please feel free. I'll have my contact info at the end. We might be able to just also speak with you too if you want to learn more. So today I want to talk about healthy relationships. And first off, the best way to start a healthy relationships is with ourselves. So yesterday I talked, if you were present or watching my talk from yesterday, we talked about self-confidence, self-worth, and this is how we view ourselves and our confidence and our abilities, and really how I should have talked how we love ourselves. And it really, that's the start of a relationship. So I will do this. All right. How do we start building healthy relationships? Like I said, we start with ourselves, right? We have a good foundation. I once had a therapist who talked about relationships like cake, which honestly was music to my ears because I am very food motivated. So I listened to what she said, and she basically said that a person needs to make the foundation of the cake, right? We put the pieces and the parts in, the eggs, the flour, the sugar, we bake it. And really all of our relationships are the frosting. So it complements the cake. It shouldn't be, well, frosting's not the foundation of a cake. You can have a cake without frosting. It's not as good, but you can't frost a soggy cake. If you've ever tried to do that, which I have, doesn't work. This metaphor actually confused my mom, so I'll use it in a different way, just in case at 9:09, looking at this cake in the morning, now all you can think about is chocolate cake. So I would say another way of thinking about a relationship with yourself in general is like a house, right? So now you've got the house, you've built the foundation is you, you're putting up walls, you're putting in doors, you're putting in windows, you're building that home or house. But all the extra stuff inside that makes it a home, the couches and the pictures and the television, all those other things are just extra. They make it a home. So I want us to think about those things like our relationships. Sometimes we put things in our homes that we don't really like so much, or we only need for a time, and then maybe they're not in our home anymore, right? So we think of these as relationships. And when I talk about relationships too, this is a broad term of talking about maybe a romantic relationship or a friendship or work relationship with coworkers or school, teachers, acquaintances. But again, the best thing the best thing is to have a good foundation, a good outside to our house that's stable and good. And if you missed my talk yesterday, the best thing for that is to have good self-worth, good confidence. But this is also called independent together, right? I think this theme is really important because sometimes we can't have that self-worth without also support. I might be confusing myself this morning. Maybe it's 9 o'clock. I hope I'm not confusing anybody else, but all right. All in all, again, all the parts of you make you a unique person. And you're special, and you deserve relationships that are good and healthy in your life. And remember, we talked about people yesterday are made up of different parts. You're not just one thing. You're not just your disability. You're not just your job. You're not just a person who reads. You don't just have brown hair, right? You don't just wear red lipstick. These are things that people might know about you, but you are so unique and you have so many parts to you. Before we move on, I have a great quote from, before we move on to boundaries, I have a great quote from Anna Taylor. So love yourself enough to set boundaries. So boundaries are really good with having healthy relationships. So love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You get to choose how you use it. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. So again, we talked a lot about self-worth yesterday. So now I want to talk about boundaries. I should say that I did use the internet. It is my best friend. When I want to say for those out there who are youth, it's really important when you're searching for information, especially about relationships, that you're careful about what you're typing in and what exactly that you're looking for. So I was looking for relationships and boundaries, and I did do some, I wanted some better talking points, and especially about boundaries when it comes to disabilities. And I found a great website calling, that's rollingwithoutlimits.com. And there was a post creating healthy boundaries and saying it's really important to have a good relationship. Often having a disability results in the need to have sometimes unconventional relationships. For example, you might have a caregiver, or you might have strangers that offer you help if needed. And even family and friends may sometimes become your caregiver from time to time. So it's really important that you are asserting yourself and making sure that your needs are being met. So learning to set boundaries should not be an intimidating task, but rather a freeing one, allowing you to live as independently as possible. So I have some tips, always with the tips. So number one, I think the best thing is to listen to yourself first. This is really getting in tune with how you are feeling in different situations. Are you running into accessibility issues on a day-to-day basis that makes you feel frustrated or angry? Even, do you have a coworker or friend who is being really pushy and making you feel like you're not being heard? Do you feel uncomfortable around the assistant or caregiver that's aiding you? If you repeatedly experience a negative emotion, resentment, fear, anxiety, frustration, that feeling that's kind of off and not right, I always think of it as like kind of a stick to your stomach feeling, a bad feeling. That's not a good sign. And the best thing to do is not push that feeling away because you don't want to come across as being mean or unlikable, because your feelings are actually worth something. Everybody's feelings are. That's a red flag, we call it. And that's something to really listen to in your body and really address. Maybe if you're feeling uncomfortable approaching that person because they're doing something that you don't like, it might even be good to have a support system around friends who you can talk to, so that you can better approach that person. It is never too late to set boundaries, and I will keep saying that over and over. Maybe you didn't set a boundary before, but something's happening in your life where you feel like it's time to set a boundary because, again, something might be happening over and over again, daily, weekly, that you're not comfortable with. You need to make your voice heard. And we'll talk a little bit about how to form a support system as well. Check your communication. This is always hard. Communicating your needs in a clear, assertive manner can remove any uncertainty between you and the other person. That is so easy to type up and say. That's advice that takes time and practice. Just like we talk about yesterday, we talked about self-worth, self-confidence is a practice, sometimes daily, sometimes hourly. Communicating is also a practice that we have to try over and over again. You have to feel confident in communicating as well. It says too that you make sure you speak with a clear and strong tone. Sometimes that is really necessary, especially, again, if someone is crossing the line, putting up that red flag, giving you that icky feeling, maybe, is that you really need to be assertive with your clear and strong tone, and don't worry about if you're hurting that person's feelings. There might be other times when you're talking to a friend and you don't really like what they say, and maybe you need to be a little softer and nicer, but still pretty strong about if they are crossing your boundaries. There are many of us who have experienced a time when people do have good intentions, but they go too far and begin to think they are helping in a way that's not helpful or that can cause more frustration than help. For sure, I have been in this situation with people that I really love, and it's hard. It's hard to talk through that with them, but clearly saying why you're uncomfortable or that you understand their intention is not negative, but that you don't want what's happening to you or what's being said to you. I do know that sometimes people in my life give me advice that doesn't really come, it comes across to the person as being helpful and supportive, but it really does cross my boundaries. And I do have a difficult time saying that because I want to be liked by everybody and I don't want to make people feel upset or embarrassed, but just a short time of that feeling will make a stronger relationship in the end. When you're starting to clearly talk about your boundaries, you're starting to build trust between each other, that you're going to tell each other the truth in a respectful manner. And you'll build a stronger foundation in that relationship for sure. So just, again, checking your communication. Sometimes people are just so eager to help you maybe that they just don't know. And don't feel bad about telling them what you need, especially in the moment. But like I said, it's never, ever too late to set a boundary. So surround yourself with supportive environments or support. This is where you want to look at the people that you have around you, known as your support system. Maybe you need someone, I will say maybe you need someone to be your advocate because you feel like you're not being heard. You feel like you've said something maybe over and over again, and that person just keeps doing whatever you do not want to happen. You can ask for that support from a friend, a trusted family member. You don't have to, I should say this, especially for the youth, sometimes this might not be your parent. Sometimes this is your parent, but somebody who maybe you need an adult to help. Teachers can be a really good resource of just asking for some help, and maybe even having what we call like peer mentors. Maybe you do see a doctor who you really trust, and you want to ask them for help, or just maybe ask them for advice because something's happening to you where you want to set a boundary and you're not quite sure how to do it. All right. It's not right. I'm looking at my notes right now. I'm sorry. It's not right that people don't just listen to what you are saying. I'll say that right now. It doesn't feel good when you ask people to do something, when you set a boundary, and there might be people who, or a person who repeatedly breaks that over and over again. It doesn't feel good. It's not right. You are valid in your feeling of uncomfortable, of being frustrated, if this is happening, but having a supportive person that you trust that can help you get your needs met is better than not getting those needs met at all, or having to keep being in that uncomfortable situation over and over again. Honestly, having a support system, especially when you're starting to build your boundaries, it's the healthy thing, the healthy option to do. It's really good for mental health, especially. And again, it might not feel good in the moment when you're having these discussions, but it is a lot better in the long run. Reminding yourself that setting boundaries, again, takes practice, and some people may be more receptive to your boundaries than others. It's important that others respect your right to set boundaries, and remember this can happen at any time. The boundaries you are setting, it is in your best interest. No one knows your needs better than yourself. Again, it's valid if you are feeling frustrated, because it can be frustrating. Sometimes when your disability is mistaken for not being capable of making your own decisions or knowing what's best for yourself, especially. If you come across individuals in your life who cannot respect your boundaries, reach out to your friends, those who are in your support system, and again, ask them advice. There might be people that you might have to not have a relationship with, or the relationship that you maybe wanted at first, but if they can't respect your boundaries over and over again, then they probably aren't good to have in your life. So communication is key. Some people, again, it will take one conversation to get your boundaries set. And then some people, it might be an everyday conversation to really make sure that that person remembers your boundaries. It's up to you to decide how long you want that to happen. You have the right and the choice who you want in your life. And you have a really strong voice, or you might have to, again, advocate through someone else, have a peer support, a friend support, adult support, to make sure that you're getting all your needs met and that you're happy and healthy, and no one should have to feel uncomfortable in their life. So how do you build your support system? What does that support system look like, right? A support system can be your friends, it can be your family. Again, it can be your coworkers, your teachers, community members. Maybe you meet people through volunteering. maybe church groups, maybe even online groups. Maybe you play games where you can talk to other people. But remember too that no one should be making you feel uncomfortable. So sometimes too, people that could be in your support group again turn out to be not the greatest, especially if they're again making you feel uncomfortable and maybe pushing your boundaries. Let's see. Oh, not questions. Yeah, I still have more, but we'll get to questions. So again, like I said, communication is key. So now that you may be thinking about communicating your boundaries, or you are communicating your boundaries, or you're already great at it, and maybe there are people out there who are going to turn to you and ask you how you set them so well. I do want to remind everybody that it's not just you who has boundaries, your friends also have boundaries, and they might be different than yours. And you should not take someone setting a boundary with you like it's a bad thing, but that they respect you so much and they want to be comfortable and want to have a relationship with you. And that even if you might have crossed their boundaries and it might be a little difficult, that it was just a mistake that you won't make again, and that they trusted you enough to tell you what their boundary was. And again, I think that is a really great sign of respect and wanting to value having a relationship. Relationships, boundaries, trust are key. And also, maybe a relationship doesn't feel good all the time. We're human, we make mistakes. There are things that we do that might be different and make other people upset, or maybe someone else makes you upset. But if you value that relationship and it's not something that they do all the time, but that you just need to set that boundary, because remember, boundaries can be set at any time, that you move forward together and you just talk and communicate. So I do have a quote from Neil Strauss. Perhaps the biggest mistake I made in the past was that I believe love was about finding the right person. And in reality, love is about becoming the right person. Don't look for the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Become the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Again, we did talk about self-worth yesterday. That's the relationship that you're always going to have with yourself. Anybody else who comes into your life, although can help with foundation, but if we're talking about romantic relationships, because everybody, for the most part, wants love, and if we're talking about that, you want them to complement your life, but not make your life. That doesn't necessarily build the strongest, healthiest relationship. Nikki Banis also has a quote that says, "The only one who gets to decide your worth is you. It doesn't come from your bank account or the number of friends you have. It doesn't come from what someone else says you are worth. It's called self-worth for a reason. It comes from you. It comes from being yourself and being proud of who you are. It comes from being someone that you can count on and someone you love. The numbers will change with time, but what won't change is who you are deep inside. And I want you all to know that you're beautiful, as Nikki says, limitless, wonderful, creative, strong, and capable. And that is where your worth comes from. I should have said that yesterday, but hopefully you're watching both these. But honestly, I couldn't have said it better. You are a beautiful, limitless, wonderful, creative, strong. You are capable. You're capable of anything that you want in your life. And relationships are important. If you take anything away from this conference, really in the title, we're independent together. We do need one another from time to time. You will need support. I need support. Sometimes we forget, especially now with so many of us who have to stay at home work from home and not see many people, it's really hard to remember we can do it alone. You can do it alone, but to have a full and rich life that you want to create for yourself, it's also good to start with building those healthy relationships. I also want to point out that that can happen again. I'll say it over and over, at any time. If you feel like maybe you don't have the healthiest relationships, if it's worthwhile communicating and putting up those boundaries and starting that dialogue to get your needs met and so that you're happy, can happen at any time. So I'm going to keep this up. I do want to know if anybody has any questions. I'll have Sari let me know if anybody has any questions or comments. Maybe not because she's muted, so.
There's no questions or comments yet.
Oh, okay. Sari, do you want to have a talk about this? Is there anything that you want to comment on we can talk about?
I just can't stress enough boundaries, and boundaries can happen at any time. You can start a relationship with somebody and not realize that something's going to pop up that's going to trigger you or bother you. And so you don't set that boundary in the beginning, but you don't have to feel bad about it or think it's too late. I guess boundaries and communication are really what makes the best relationship.
For sure. And I think too, those also build trust. So there's kind of, there's many parts to a relationship, but I agree, Sari, the boundaries, the communication, and I'll just throw in trust there, really set up a good relationship. And Sari's right, and I think I keep saying it over and over again, right? It's that a boundary can happen at any time. And you should not feel bad about not setting that boundary in the beginning, because as Sari brought up, sometimes you won't know until you're in that situation, and you will just know by that feeling that that isn't something that you want to happen. Or as Sari said, a trigger, right, of what might come up. And that can just look different in any relationship. And I think it's very important that we have, again, those conversations when they happen. And I don't know, Sari, what do you feel about this? Sometimes it's hard, again, when it's happening in the moment, and maybe to take some time to think about it a little bit. And if you do not like what happened, you can come back to it. I don't like arguments, but I get that sometimes happens in the moment. But hopefully you have a good relationship that person's also hearing you, even in the heat of the moment. And yes, they can work on it together.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes, I think for all of us, we come across times in our life with any relationship where it's very hard to handle the situation in the moment. And it is very okay to take a step back and kind of, think, how do I want to handle this? What do I want to do to make myself feel better? But also, in the same hand, always remembering if somebody's trying to make you do something that you're not comfortable with, or trying to suggest you something, you have the right to say no right now. You don't have to do it. Don't ever feel forced. Don't ever feel, because I don't have my boundaries set with this issue, I have to do this. No, you don't have to do that. You can always say no.
Yes, absolutely. And I think too, it's it's okay to feel uncomfortable about what you're saying to that person. I think it's really important to know that if they're forcing you to do something that you don't want to do, or you feel pressure to do anything that you don't want to do, don't let that person not liking you be the reason why you're not saying no. You're the important person, the way that you feel in the situation. And so even maybe, let's say it's a new friend, that's again that boundary that you're setting right then and there of saying, no, I don't want to do what you're asking me to do. I don't want to be pressured to do what you're asking me to do. And it's hard, again, because I want everybody to like me, but there are moments where I have to stay true to myself and know that my self-worth and my confidence and my values, if I just do what the person wants me to do, are going to be compromised. And I want to stay true to myself. And so you just sometimes have to say, it's okay if this person doesn't like me, because maybe that person shouldn't be in your life anyway, if they can't hear you too.
I agree.
Okay, good. Good. All right. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here today. I am going to put this attendees, you should be able to see the Google Doc link. This is a survey. If you could take that, I'll give you some time to kind of copy that link. And if you would go and fill out the survey, that would be awesome. We'll stay a little bit on here. If you have any questions, any comments that you want to make, just put that in the chat. I really do appreciate you listening to me talk about healthy relationships today. I think also it's a good reminder to everyone that just like self-worth and self-confidence, that healthy relationships also take practice over time. You have to practice at it. We're not born knowing everything, right? So we're human. So take that time to practice, and know it might be a little uncomfortable at first, but I think, you know, as time moves on, it'll get more comfortable. You'll start knowing yourself more. You'll start feeling good too. And so your house, your cake will be delicious.
Your cake and your frosting will be delicious.
Oh yeah. So, and just take that time to, if you can, please, we'll kind of wait till 45 after, just to give you some time. Let's see, I might have something else, but if you can also say hi. Can you make, in that chat, attendees, can you or someone say whether or not you can actually see that link? I know there are a few of you, so I do want to make sure that you see the link. Don't feel shy this morning, guys. I know it's early, but you don't have to be shy. Okay, good. Thank you, Bailey. I'm glad. Hi. Okay. Also, we have another session here at Youth. Just look what all the tracks from this. So we'll have a break, and then back at 1 o'clock today, our sessions will start up. At 6 o'clock, we have a networking event. It is a talent show. Please do not feel intimidated not to show up because maybe you don't think you have a talent. This is also for networking because we want to see your face and we want to say hi. And we just want to have fun. Last night we watched Crip Camp together and we had a great discussion afterwards. And so, you know, just because it's called a talent show and maybe you don't think you have a talent yet, you probably do, but we really want to see you just so that we can network as well. It'll be a lot of fun. Anything that you have to say, Sari, before we go?
I was just gonna say, along the lines of you, networking is not necessarily the activity. It's just to get to know you, because at any time down the road, today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, if you feel the need to reach out to one of us, whether it be myself, Erin, or somebody you meet face to face tonight, virtually, we are all here for you, and that's what the networking is all about. And not only the networking, but also the other sessions that are going on throughout the week.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good time to start making those connections and building your support system and your support groups and finding people to have in your life, however that looks. And maybe again, I'll just say tomorrow, the networking session is storytelling. And don't feel like you don't have a story to tell and so you can't come. I think I will tell you from my experience, starting in storytelling has made me a lot more confident and a lot more confident in becoming a self-advocate. And that means that it makes me a lot more comfortable telling people my issues and my boundaries without necessarily having somebody else around. Although I do need that from time to time. Again, we can't do this alone. Although we are working to have independent lives, we need each other as well. So you guys, thank you so much again for joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. If no one has anything, I hope you took a little bit from this, and again, hopefully you took my contact information if you want to talk or contact me afterwards. You guys are great. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye, guys.